There are only two reasons you clicked on this video. Either you have $1,500 to spend on your computer, or the more likely answer is you don't have the money right now, but you're planning for the future, or however long it takes you to get this type of money to spend on some really expensive RGB. Whatever your reasoning is, let's jump into it. When buying a PC this expensive, the best way to do it is to build around the GPU and the CPU. These two parts will always be the most expensive in your build, so it makes sense to pick out these two parts first, then to plan out the rest of your computer around the main two components. It will also ensure that you do not make any mistakes with your components. The last thing you want is a 500 watt power supply just to have an RTX 3080 show up at your door that was on sale on Newegg. The CPU for this build is the Ryzen 7 5700G. This processor is a beast for the price. Not only will this processor allow you to lose your entire life savings day trading cryptocurrencies on multiple monitors with its 8 cores and 16 threads, it will also allow you to build your beautiful dirt house without the game crashing with its 3.8 GHz base clock and 4.6 GHz boost clock. This CPU also comes with the Wraith Stealth Cooler, so you'll not need to worry about buying a CPU fan or an AIO. As a general rule of building a computer on a budget, buying an AIO is almost always a waste of money. Yes, they look pretty and they sometimes have some colorful lights, but your money is better spent on other parts of the computer. The most important thing about the CPU is the fact that it will not bottleneck the GPU we chose, the RTX 3070. I don't think anyone could argue the strength of this card. It has 8GB of GDDR6 VRAM, a boost clock of 1.73 GHz, and 5,888 CUDA cores. This card is a tank, allowing it to run any game you throw at it with a good amount of frames per second. What makes this card even better is the price. This is the first time that you can get this card for $600. It's mostly due to the other newly released cards like the 3070 Ti and the 3080 Ti, but I'm never going to argue with GPUs coming down to a reasonable price. Yeah, it's not MSRP, but don't get greedy. One more Chinese lockdown and you'll be paying $600 for an RX 580 again. Moving along with the build, we need a motherboard. This is a part of the computer that a lot of people spend way too much money on. We went with the Gigabyte B550X V2 motherboard. It is a total of 6 USB ports, 4 of them which are USB 3.2, along with a PCIe Gen 4 16X slot, and it's fully compatible with Ryzen 5000 series without the need for updating the BIOS. This is exactly the type of board you should be looking at in a budget build. There's no reason to get an extremely flashy motherboard that will end up just eating your budget for no real gain. One of the most important features of this motherboard is a PCIe Gen 4 M.2 slot. This will be great for our Sabrent Rocket 1TB M.2 NVMe. This is one part of the computer that we did choose to spend a little bit more money on than the rest. There are a few reasons why we did this. This is a massive increase in read and write speeds compared to Gen 3, with it being on average 61% faster read speeds and 46% faster write speeds. This is reflected with up to 5,000 megabytes per second read time and the 4,000 megabytes per second write time of the NVMe we selected. The second reason we picked this M.2 is because it's the only storage on this computer. There's always a choice to add another M.2 as there is 2 slots on this motherboard, but 1TB should be more than enough to get you started. The speed of your drives is extremely important for downloading games and those games updates. Even if your internet can download the game extremely fast, if your drives can't match that speed, it doesn't matter if you even have NASA's Wi-Fi, it will still download slowly. To finish filling up the motherboard, we have 32GB of Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro in a 4x8 configuration. With 3600 MHz, it's more than fast enough to keep up with this system. And the 32GB of RAM will allow you to have as many Chrome tabs open as your heart desires. Well, not too many, but a lot. And as always, the RGB is a plus. To power this machine, we chose the EVGA SuperNOVA 750W power supply. Not only is the PSU Gold Plus certified, it's also fully modular. So cable management on this computer should be relatively easy and there's no need for a rat's nest hidden on the bottom of your computer. Also, 750 watts is the lowest wattage you can go for a computer like this. We would even recommend if you're planning to upgrade even further in the future, that you upgrade to an 850 watt or a 1000 watt power supply. The case we chose was the best looking one we could find for a relatively good price. Following what we did with the motherboard, we wanted to save as much money on the case as we could to save more room in our budget for the bigger items. The Corsair 220T RGB is the case we went with. Not only is it made by a trusted manufacturer, it still looks good without breaking the bank, and that's all we could ask for. The total cost of this computer is $1,472.44, slightly below our $1,500 budget before tax. We can't actually include the taxes because everyone around the world is taxed at different rates, and it's extremely hard to find a happy medium. There are a few changes that you could make in this computer if you would like. If you want more GPU power, you can switch the CPU to the Ryzen 5 5600G to allow more room in the budget to buy the 3070 Ti. Also, this computer's build guide does not need to be completely followed, but if you're really patient and find sales, you can easily save enough money to upgrade any part of this computer.